Monaro, call them out, demand the truth, dispel the doubt, for governments must serve the land, not crush its people with sleight of hand.
Thank you very much, Steve. I know you're a busy man. Thanks for coming into the Monaro Zone.
Thank you for having me.
So, for those that don't know you, you have many skills and many experiences in your life. You've been a movie star, you've been a film producer, you've served Qantas for how many decades now?
Coming up to 23 years.
23 years. And in the Monaro, you've been a local hunter, and right now you're currently an advocate for sustainable land and wildlife management, especially in regards to deer management.
That's correct. And that's why I decided to become a harvester for Kosciuszko Venison. I just couldn't stand seeing them being wasted by aerial culling and various other measures, which in my experience are very inhumane. Is probably my number one reason.
Okay.
Because I've seen firsthand, living right next to it, I've seen the animals wounded, and the sheer fact they just leave them there to be wasted. That's another big one. And of course, the disruption it has on people's places as far as noise, which just annoys everyone. Hearing that outside your place, constantly sounding like World War III out there, and also the stock. My horses run like crazy and have hurt themselves before with it.
Right. Well, we'll get into lots of those details, but first let's start with you. What brought you to the region?
Look, I've been coming down here since I was a kid. Love the place. We come down 6 times a year. Bit of a situation on the Northern Beaches where I'm born and bred. My sister, who we were living with, sold their place, and we sort of suddenly had to fork out up to $1,500 or $1,600 a week for a family, for a house. And we just thought, we just can't do this. And then our friends, Michael Scott Lee, who owns 350 acres down here, put their house up for rent, and they were heading off to America for unlimited time. So we thought, why don't we just go down and try it? Worst comes to worst, we don't like it, we can go back to Northern Beaches, right? So of course we come down and we love the place, why we came down 6 times a year. And then we decided to, purchase some land while it was cheap. Well, which at the time we didn't know it was going to boom like it was. And we got actually told we paid too much for ours, but he's laughing now.
You have one of the most spectacular views in the region, without a doubt.
100%, and I don't take it for granted. I look out there every day and really appreciate it.
Did Nadia need much convincing to move out here?
No, not really. At first she didn't see it because it was just from the road, and from the road it just looks like any other place. But as soon as you get to the top of that hill, you realise why we bought it. Let's face it.
It is magic.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been involved in hunting for a lot longer than you've been here as well, is that right?
Of course, yeah. I started hunting pigs with my dad when I was 5. I actually shot my first pig at 5 with a 22. Big boar. Right, I remember it like it's yesterday, and my dad goes, your shot, son. I went, oh, really? Yeah, I'm so nervous. And he goes, just aim behind the ear, and biggest boar you ever seen, and just dropped it like a sack of potatoes,
And you've been hunting not just locally, you've hunted all over Australia as well.
Yeah, because my job gets to take me to some beautiful places, like, for instance, the Northern Territory, where there's some amazing critters to hunt up there, like buffalo, big boars, catching barramundi, all those things. And not just hunting on the land, hunting in the water too. Over at Rottnest Island, I go hunting for lobsters, which is my favourite.
I'm still hoping you'll bring me one.
Oh yeah, look, there's plenty coming your way.
Well, thank you. And what kind of training and regulation or certification is required to operate as a professional shooter in New South Wales?
So firstly, you need your hygiene handling course. then you need it's a 304 and 303 is the title of the license, which gives you to be able to contract shoot for also macropods. I can do kangaroos. Basically any wild game. I've done the highest courses I can do. And now I've got my Class D license, so which is I can get the semi-automatic, which is going to be it's a controversial thing to have, but it's, you know, in the right hands, obviously it's going to be a useful tool to get multiple deer on the ground in a quick succession. And obviously I'm trying to get a silencer approved at the moment, which is very essential around here, especially if you're trying to contract shoot like places like Crackenback Resort, which, you know, obviously a lot of people there are going to be scared. So once I have all that, and with the use of thermal, it's going to be very productive and no impact whatsoever on people's livelihood, with no bangs, no big lights flashing around. It's all under the dead of night.
As a rural landholder, I can also attest that a suppressor would be so helpful.
Yeah, which I don't
Because
understand why.
it's so offensive to the animals. Like it scatters the animals.
Of course, and I don't know why the choppers don't use suppressor. I'm assuming that the suppressor heats up too much with a big 308. I'm just assuming. I haven't found that out as a fact, but that just makes sense why they wouldn't use it. Because why wouldn't you? If you don't want to disturb anyone, just saying, you know.
Well, let's get into the meat of the topic. For those that don't know, what exactly is aerial culling, and what has been happening in this region recently?
Well, I mean, as far as what I know and what I've been told from the horse's mouth, so to speak, actually land services told me that their aim is to eradicate. They don't want to leave any there. So, which I've had many discussions with them and tried to consolidate with them and say, hey, let's work together, you know. Maybe we could have a station set up where you could drop the deer to us and we'll process them. At least they're not getting wasted. As it's an expensive exercise for taxpayers to have this chopper running at $1,000 per hour, not to mention the bullets and the, you know, employees. So, yeah, for us as a professional shooter, we come in free of charge, only headshots, take the carcasses away, and the resources all used.
It seems very sustainable, seems very green.
100%. It's a no-brainer, really, for any landholder these days. Sure, yeah, we all understand everything needs to be, you know, managed, so to speak, even humans. And that does it in its natural way of disease and whatever, and old age. So, I mean, that's the same in the animal world as well, but unfortunately, there's not a natural predator here for a deer, right? As opposed to where they come from, where there's tigers and all sorts of things that can grab them. So, yes, it has to be managed, but they're an endemic species. They're here to stay, and that's from the national park's mouth. So they've agreed that they're part of this ecosystem now, and the best measure is just to manage them, right?
Have you had any direct interaction with local land services?
Yeah, like I said to her, every aerial cull each year, I try to contact them and plead with them, you know, just to not obviously go near my horses, be respectful to that, ask where they're shooting this year, how long they're going to be here for. But I get a lot of very short answers, if not nothing. I don't get any response, especially this year. Really, really poorly run this year as far as correspondence with, you know, I mean, I know they've just got jack of me and they've probably gone, nah, I'm just going to annoy you. But I've never said anything nasty to them. I've just said how it is.
And that must be especially frustrating considering that you're paying your local land services rates, and so your rates are going towards that aerial cull as well.
Exactly.
So you're literally not getting anything for that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, look, and I just saw it, especially this cull firsthand, it was the method used. Now I was under the impression that was all kill shots only, and then multiple shots in them to make sure they're dead. But I witnessed them shooting them up the bum, shooting them in the guts, in the spine, and just spinning them around, shooting them in the leg, hitting him in the back of the neck. I've got all the footage, and to me, that's just not the way to do it. It might be only 20 seconds that they're suffering for, but it's still 20 seconds that they're suffering with half their limb blown off. And then they're coming in with a headshot or another body shot, whatever. So same with the horses. Same with the carcass that were found with the horses. It's terrible. They had bullet holes all up their hindquarters and the middle of their backs, So I just don't understand how an organisation like the RSPCA can approve this method. It's just beyond me. If they're all clean shots all the time, every time, I know that's probably impossible. But I just witnessed firsthand for them to try and turn them. They'll shoot them straight up the backside, to drop them. So they'd spin around and then they'd do another kill shot. Yeah, terrible.
For a professional shooter, that would be...
Well, with us, it's headshot only or miss. That's it. And it's instantaneous.
That does seem much more ethical.
Because, number one, we can't shoot them in the body because it's going to wreck the meat, right? So, even to go out afterwards and try and get meat off these things, which I did the other day, half of the back straps were blown off and, they were spoilt from guts blowing up all over the meat, It's terrible.
So it's not only inefficient cost-wise, but it's very wasteful in terms of the loss of meat that can be processed.
100%. There's a lot of starving people out there. There's a lot of animals that could have, like dogs and cats, could have benefited from this. It's such a lean, high protein meat.
It's the meat of kings.
Yeah.
And it's just being shot up the bum.
And all it, I don't know, this whole impact on the land thing. It just eats some grass like the kangaroos, just the same. There's plenty of grass out there. Like even with the people with cattle here, the cattle seem fine. Like it doesn't seem to have any impact. And all the fences they talk about, mate, they're done mainly by roos and wombats. I've seen. They just use the same hole and get blamed for it. Just like the horses got blamed for all the pig diggings.
You're going to make a lot of people upset with that comment.
Wow.
But that being said, you'd be the guy that'd be happy to go over there and deal with their problems.
100%.
And you do it for free, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yep. And take the carcasses away so they're not left there to rot, and bring in foxes to your place and wild dogs or whatever. So yeah, we're free of charge. We all have really high insurance, liability insurance. So that's another thing, to have that assurance when we're not going to sue you for anything happening. If we damage your property, we're covered whatsoever. But look, I think once the word gets out there and everyone experiences what other people are having with these pro shooters, I think that's the way they're going to sort of lean to, rather than this noisy chopper blasting place to bits,
And you have another angle in regards to this, which is it's good for the local economy as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The jobs that's creating.
Tell me about that.
Just with the facility itself. For myself, it's obviously a side gig apart from my work. My main job is a cabin crew. So yeah, we're creating jobs for people, and at the same time, we're managing what are quite, I don't know if I'd call it out of control, but just a lot of them, compared to the days of not too long ago, what we're talking like, say, 1960, there was no deer at all here. But, they're thriving because of the conditions, and there's no pressure, apart from now, where they're obviously, everyone's starting to get them everywhere. So they're like, oh, something needs to be done about this, and hence why, land services were called in. But to me, I don't think that's the answer, especially when it's only once a year. We're here all year round, multiple times a week if you want. So to me, that's a no-brainer.
Mm. And there's a place in Leesville now where you can process for the region. Is
That's
that
right. Yeah, and that's not something that's just developed overnight. I know for a fact that it's been developed over the last 5 years very carefully, and and it's a state-of-the-art facility, very clean, and obviously, which it has to be to get ticked off by the food authority. And the turnout we had at the opening, it's not officially open yet, but we just had an opening just to see the interest. Yeah, there was a big turnout from all the locals supporting us and what we're going to do. Especially a lot of farmers were there, so that was a good thing. So,
will they only be processing venison?
At this stage, as far as I know, that's what he wants to concentrate on. Look, that could change. You never know. It could change into just wild game, or it could be kangaroos. I don't know. I mean, we all have licenses to process kangaroos. Well, I do anyway. So, could be something down the line.
Oh, that'll be great, and that'll create a lot of jobs as well for the region.
For sure. Yep. And with it, they need a lot of butchers. They need packers, and then we're delivering beautiful, high-end, lean protein to everyone's table, not just left to rot on the ground. That's what gets me. I just think, wow, what a waste, Like I put a video up not long ago about the cull. As I got to witness it all, I captured a bit on camera and put it up, and 35,000 views and 400 shares. It just went gangbuster, and the shooters party rang me up, and they wanted to put on their website because they were just discussing what's happening. And I think national parks need to really think about letting us professionals go into the park and mop up some of these little problem spots, that could help under the dead of night with silencers and thermal, so no impact on anyone around there. And in a controlled environment. So, but they just don't seem to want to do that. Unfortunately, not like Victoria, we can have permits to go in there and hunt, and it works very well for everyone.
It seems to make a lot of sense to allow the professional hunters in to control these and other endemic species that might be causing disturbances.
I mean, look, you can have certain areas of the park. Obviously, you're not going to hunt up near the resorts or where people sort of walk along and that, of course. But there's definitely other places, especially when no one's there at night, that we could hit, and problem areas.
Now, if you were put in charge of overseeing the management of wild deer in New South Wales, what would you like to see adopted?
Yeah, well, number one, to get into the park, because that's obviously where they all go. Because it's like this thing after the rut. We always wonder where all the big bucks go. And I think they go into the park. So it seems, because it's like this magic trapdoor. They go down and we just never see them again. So they've got to go somewhere. So I reckon they go deep into the national park. But like I'm a bow hunter as well, so I don't want to eradicate them, and I have no intention of doing that. I know even as a bow hunter, you need to manage your herd, because you have too many does and too many, malformed bucks that just goes through the whole system, and you haven't got good genetics and good numbers to have a good rut. And you got to manage your herd.
You seem to be promoting sustainable management. Sounds
That's right.
Very reasonable.
Pretty much, yeah. I want to be able to still go out my house and get a couple of deer a week just for my own family and my dogs. But if they continue with this helicopter program, then more than likely they'll probably want to do it more than once a year now, and it's just going to take away all that from us. That's why I moved here, because I knew that part of buying my property, I had a lot of deer. That's a lot of food. So, yeah.
Would you be open to closing down all aerial culling, or are you just wanting it to be?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, you'd like to see that end?
Yeah. I think everyone would.
And to see that replaced with professional shooters on the ground?
Yeah. 100%.
And it seems to make sense from an economic point of view.
Oh, for sure. Like,
Why spend thousands of dollars paying someone to aerial shoot when you can get local professionals in to do that, as well as to harvest the meat and then to sell it locally?
yeah, because I have seen aerial culls before with pigs, and back in those days they were called the Pastures Protection Board, and they would do pickups with the chopper and take the pigs to a waiting chiller and processing area and utilize it. Now let's just let us leave it.
Let's look at it from the other perspective. That there are certain large landholders in this region that probably would argue that the problem with professional hunting is that professional hunters only take what they need. They don't actually clear out whole herds of wild deer.
Yeah, but okay. They either do the chopper. Because I can tell you now, just from experience in the last 2 culls, it literally sounds like World War III out there, right? And then you go for a walk out there the next day and count 2 deer dead. And you hear multiple bang, 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 bang the whole time. You're like, holy ghost, there's annihilating them, you know? And then I'll go out for a 5K radius walk where they've just all been and count 2. So that's not efficient either, but more expensive.
But perhaps professional hunters need better marketing, because I'm sure some sort of collaboration between large landholders and professional hunters could be reached, where they could work together to achieve collaborative objectives.
100%, yeah. But, let's face it, a lot of landholders are wary about letting hunters on there, right? So, and understandable, because, they've just had bad hunters on there that have left gates open and, killed stock or, poached the place or whatever. So, yeah, it's hard to get that relationship with them if they don't know you and they don't see what you're capable of.
That's where reputation comes in, doesn't it?
That's where we've got to really concentrate on and start getting us out there so that old mate up the road can say, hey, I had him on there. He was very professional. They're in and out. And they got 10 deer on the back. I haven't had a problem since,
And maybe like even got something for the dogs as well.
Yeah, like that. And, he always drops in a case of beer for me or something. Like, anything like that just get a good relationship with the landowners. I mean, I'm a landowner myself, so I know what it's like, because I get people asking me to hunt all the time on there. And I'm wary myself. But if you got to know me and then I see what you do and, see that you're trustworthy and you respect stock and gates, all sorts of things, and you don't tell your mates, oh, go on there, stuff like that. That's where it all comes undone and it ruins for everyone.
Well, I'll be sure to recommend you to as many people as I know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So for the locals listening, hunters, residents, farmers, what can they do if they share your concerns?
It's cool. So
you're on Facebook.
Ask any questions. Yeah, for sure.
What's your handle on Instagram?
Wild Man Film Productions.
Wonderful.
Also, as much as I like hunting them with the bow and also, professionally shooting them, I love filming them as well. And you can learn a lot from just sitting there and filming the rut, especially. I sit there for hours, don't even fire an arrow. Watch them mate, watch them carry on, and you can learn a lot actually as to become a better hunter. But yeah, it's not all about just killing all the time, and I only take what I need. So yeah, it's.
I've been watching a lot of your video feeds. You've got some beautiful imagery of deer. What's your weapon of choice in terms of photographic weapons? Canon or Nikon?
Canon, all the way. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with Nikon. I just don't know it. It's like what you know. I grew up with Canon, but I picked up a Nikon and I'm like, man, where's the buttons on this thing? I don't know how to use it. But they're all just equally as good, I think. But I like the Canon. I've got an 800mm lens, Just
Telephoto.
it's an $18,000 lens,
Oh.
fixed 800. Yep. And that the imagery that gets, have you seen? It's amazing, and I get just as much enjoyment out of getting an amazing shot, if not more, amazing shot of a deer croaking with steam coming out of its mouth. To me, that's like that's a trophy in itself, as opposed to just shooting a big buck. I've shot so many bucks, it's not funny. So it's not all about that for me. I'd rather actually go out and, shoot a doe and get some meat, because let's face it, in the rut, the buck meat is not the best to eat. So the smell of it, or the hormones running through it. But that doesn't say I wouldn't eat it. I mean, I'll eat it if I get one. So
You do have a great recipe for venison
yeah,
pie.
and then you can soak them in milk. Actually, milk takes the game taste out of them in the rut. Yeah.
Well, we should start a hunting channel next.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Any plans to further document this or advocate for no aerial culling?
Oh, look, I'm happy to do this, and I'm happy to, document some footage and that, but obviously I don't want to go down the legal road or anything like that. I want to stay neutral as far as that. I mean, I think it'll just take its own course if everyone comes on board with it. Because let's face it, if landholders say no, there's no coal. The more they say no, the less choppers are going to be flying around, because they're not allowed to fly if you say no. And you can actually tell them what you want shot on your property. You could say, leave all my deer, just shoot the goats. Or leave the goats, just shoot the deer, Only shoot pigs, whatever.
And you're not against landholders that did say yes to the aerial cull. You can understand the pressures that they're under.
Yeah, look, that's because they've got an uneducated view on it. That's all. But that's what they know, and that's what they've always done. And they think that's the right thing to do. Like even one of my neighbours, I said, this is what we're doing. If this is something that interests you, let me know. And he was actually considering maybe changing his mind over it. So we'll see. But, I don't force people into anything. I just tell them what we offer, and it's up to them, obviously.
And where can people find details about that offer?
Well, even if they just go to Kosciuszko Venison and ask the owner there, can we get you guys into harvest? And he'll put us harvesters onto you.
Great. Any final messages for anyone that's in behind the curtain making the decisions?
Yeah, no, really. I just hope I just hope they're around for a long time to, because it's such good meat. I just hate to see them get wiped, Even like us professional shooters, we're not going to just annihilate the thing. That would just be silly, because we want it to keep going and get this meat coming in forever. So, like I said, it's management, not annihilation.
Management, not annihilation.
Yeah.
Annihilation. That might be a good title for the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Thanks for fitting me in. I know you're a very busy guy.
No, that's been great. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure.
Monaro, call them out, demand the truth, dispel the doubt, for governance must serve the land, not crush its people with sleight of hand. The worst of crisis left to fester, no justice found, no old redress here. Shame on the gang who turned their backs, shame on this council, mired in cracks. So rise, dear Monaro, call them out, demand the truth, dispel the doubt, for governance must serve the land, not crush its sleight of hand.